It's another fine day at Camp Dynasty. I am Counselor Austin, joined by Counselor Collin. And for the last 5 weeks, we have put together our rankings, our summer rankings for the 2026 NFL draft class, and more specifically, the 2026 Dynasty rookie class. Today, Collin, is the point where we take 5 weeks and we put it together into a top 12, a single round of a Dynasty rookie draft. And normally it's very exciting because if you're holding like what you think is going to be a late first, you're kind of like, you're telling me I could get this guy at
Right.
like 10 this year? That's kind of sick. This year, it seems as though we're having an opposite experience. Is that true?
Yeah, I was going through this list and I was kind of sorting it out with you before we got on and I'm like, I just don't know how I feel about putting this guy at the end of the first round, and maybe that has something to do with like how stacked last year's class felt, where you're at like 8 and 9, you're like, oh man, this is like Judkins and Caleb Johnson range. Like you're feeling pretty good, especially like in Superflex. And maybe Superflex changes things a little bit with this class because there's a few quarterbacks, but when we're talking one quarterback, like the back half of the first round is a little sketchy. And like even like for me after 4 gets a little weird. And so I'd say as of right now, the class is not stacking up to years prior. That being said, we talk about this a lot. We talked about it in our summer rankings series that a lot will change over the college football season. Guys will break out. There will be names that under the radar that you haven't heard yet that are going to pop up and become guys, real bona fide players. So as of now, it looks a little weird. Don't fire sale your 26 picks yet, unless you can get something really good for them. Maybe push them to 2027 if there's any buyers, but I wouldn't like panic yet. But right now, it's not looking as good as previous years.
Yeah, I was going to say, unless you're one of those lucky folks that already turned a 26 into a 27, now is maybe not the time unless you can still make that happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, there is two ways to look at it, and you're looking at it the glass half full way, which I appreciate, which is that we have an entire season left. There are potential improvements that can come with this group of players, and some of them like are ripe for that improvement, and we've talked about that through the last 5 weeks. The other part of it is there's going to be guys that we haven't been talking about that all of a sudden show up and it's week 4 and we're like, all right, you're in.
Yep.
You're one of the weeklies. So all we can hope for is that both of those things happen and that this class takes a massive step forward from where it is today, because I agree with you. I think the bottom of the first round, the names that we're talking about are like pretty crazy. Like they would have been like late second round guys for me probably last year. And then I'm with you where I have a 4-player tier on the top. And even that is still like, it's not a 4-player tier like 2 years ago had a 4-player tier. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like Marv Odunze,
Right.
Neighbors, it's not that kind of 4-player tier. So I think there's a lot of improvement that can happen here. That being said, all we can hope for is the best.
I'm trying to say, I'm trying to approach this with a positive attitude. I'm trying to sit here and say like, things will get better. They always get better. There's always more players than you think. So like, even though this is what it looks like now, this is not what it's going to look like at the end of the season. We kind of talked about that as well. Like you go into these and you say like, this is what we're looking at going into the year. This is not like what our predicted final rankings are going to be or anything like that. This is just how we feel entering the season. We'll update ourselves again mid-season, and things are probably going to drastically change even by then. And then again at the end of the season when things will be a complete overhaul. So while this tentatively looks a little sketch, that's okay. Things will change.
And it is our natural response here at Camp Dynasty to be positive, to not like throw players under the bus as much as we possibly can, because that's not what we like to do. So we are going to go in with that sort of a mentality. However, I will close this gloomy part of the discussion by saying I would say that in 3 years leading up till now, we have never seen a class like go from bad to good.
Sure.
I think we've seen classes go from like
good to great.
Right. And that's probably just because this is the worst class like in the summertime that we've had yet.
Yeah.
So this will be the ultimate test of like, what does that look like?
Yeah.
And the reason why that's important to say, it's not just because it's like, I want to dunk on these guys in summer. It's all, there's a future planning element here. It's Dynasty. Like we're talking about, trade your 26 for 27. That's not a joke.
No, seriously.
Like, there is a real world where even though there is this projection and there is this chance that the class can improve, as of right now, it appears that the 26 class will be a significant step back from the last few years that we've been dealing with. So maybe those firsts are a little bit less valuable than they have been in the past couple of years. You can use them to make some different kinds of moves.
Inflation
right now
hitting the dynasty market.
Yeah, exactly.
So maybe the vets are worth a little more and picks are worth a little less. But if you have members of your league that aren't like super tuned in and aren't like, I'm ready for the 26 class, you guys are here and you understand what the 26 class is looking like.
Right.
Maybe you send, a 26 pick for a vet that you think, maybe he like teetering on worth a first round pick. Send that 26 first because that's going to be, especially if it's projected mid to late, and then send that out and see if you can maybe get a feeler for one of those players because, right now that back half of the first, especially 9 through 12 is, not ideal.
Yeah. Yeah. You feel like you're a player away. You go send that first. You go get that player right now. All right. With all of that, with the votes of confidence put down there, let's jump into this thing. This is, of course, a summary, basically, of the last 5 weeks. So we have gone into much greater detail with every player that we're going to talk about today within their positional episode.
A summary.
Wow. That was amazing. A summary. There it is. So if you don't want the summary version of it, then dive back in. If you haven't already, if you have, you're a rock star and we love you. Thanks for coming back for this one too. But this is just our way to stack the class, which is interesting because it is always kind of fun to look at it when you're going position by position and you're ranking against players within the same bucket, to then have to look at the full list and say, wait a minute. Oh yeah, no, I guess this guy is going to be like here. You don't think maybe that they're going to be as high or as low as they end up, but that's all the fun of it. So with all of that said, we're diving in to number 12, and I'm going to turn it over to you.
We got a quarterback, number 12. This is the most, I think, positional variance in a first round that I've had most of the time. It's quarterbacks, or it's wide receivers, it's running backs, then maybe a quarterback, tight end sneaks in, maybe an edge if the class is good enough. This year is the most positions I've had in a first round. 12, I'm starting Drew Allar out of Penn State. So this is a player that's coming back to Penn State and has some dual threat viability. Again, we're doing this one quarterback, not super flex. So if you're wondering why Allar isn't higher, that's why. sometimes, quarterbacks don't make it at all in the first round of one quarterback drafts. But in this case, first of all, in this class, second of all, Allar's pretty good. We're gonna sit here and he's gonna be in the Heisman race. He was like firmly in it for a little while last year, and so I think he can definitely be a real fantasy piece if he lands in like a decent offense. He might be in contention for number 1 overall going in the NFL draft, especially if other quarterbacks don't declare. Maybe we'll get to them later, but if we're sitting here talking about Allar, number 1 overall pick, he almost has to be in the first round of this 2026 class, I think.
And I also think,
Yeah,
because Allar is my number 11 player.
perfect.
Yeah. So super flex folks, if you are here, or if you're like us and you do a little bit of both, we are doing a super flex rankings episode in a couple of weeks from right now. So that is coming, and that is also very important in this class because we are doing one quarterback rankings right now. Drew Allar is making both of our top 12s. And if you listen to the quarterbacks episode a few weeks ago, you know that Drew Allar is not QB1 for us, and he's not QB2 for me. Was he QB2 for you?
Yes.
I can't. Okay. So yeah, that's kind of where we are with this class. And honestly, kind of letting the cat out of the bag by saying that and saying I have 3 quarterbacks in my top 12. That is as much of a challenge.
Oh no, he was my 3. I was just double checking.
He was.
Yeah, but I snubbed somebody now.
Okay. So, I mean, that's another part of this. There are some little tweaks to the rankings that happen. I have one of them coming up too. But so I have 2 quarterbacks ahead of him still. He is my QB3. It's a product of the class. I'm going to rank the best players in the best spots. And I'm not going to play the positional game, especially in summer. So if I think Drew Allar is a more talented player than, players at running back or wide receiver that I like, a little bit less, I'm not going to factor that in right now. So to me, having 3 quarterbacks in a 1 quarterback first round is a little bit insane.
Yeah.
And I'll admit that, but that is directly because of the class. And it's a great indication of how different it's going to be of an experience to draft Superflex this year versus non-Superflex.
Yeah. Yeah, I just adjusted my rankings to include my other quarterback because...
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I had a guy that I didn't really feel great about. Okay. And so now we're slotted in. I feel a little better about that now.
Hell yeah. Let's go. It's quarterback mania here at Camp Dynasty in 2026. So, all right. So Allar is 12 for you. Mm-hmm. He's 11 for me. And my number 12 player is TJ Parker.
Okay. I have him higher.
Okay.
I have him at 7.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. I love that. I mean, it's always hard to know what to do with these guys. And I feel like I at least have always kind of defaulted in the summer to putting them at 12 or 11.
Yep.
Even I think Will Anderson, if I were to go back and
I think he's 11.
Yeah. I mean it's hard to say for sure with these guys, but I think again, combination of the class and the overall kind of weakness of the skill groups fused with this is the number 1 IDP for me and for you coming out of summer. So I think he certainly earned a spot here in the top 12. You put him at 7.
I put him at 7. Yeah. So this so I kind of tiered it out as guys I feel good about. And then after, there's kind of a tier break at 8, I would say, for me. And then 9 onwards is guys that I have some questions about, a lot of questions about. And then from 6, 7, 8 is guys that I feel okay about but need to show me a little more. And Parker just kind of fell into that tier. Also, I just kind of am a lot more confident that this player is going to be in this top 12 versus the guys that are below him. That I'm like, yeah, I don't really know how this is going to go throughout the season. Like, Parker's just awesome. So whether or not like he's worthy of the number 7 overall pick, I don't 100% know, but I know that he's better than 8 through 12 for me. And like that's where I'm kind of falling.
Yeah, I'm interested now to see where you have the other quarterbacks, because I feel like I did the exact same thing with the quarterbacks in this class, where it's like, put me on the clock today. Am I really going to take him
Right.
there? But like, that's kind of where it seems like you should take them based off of how confident you are in their talent
Right.
versus the rest of the class. So I totally understand that. I love that. TJ Parker, man, he's a beast.
He's a beast. Number 10 for me is Cade Klubnik,
Okay.
who's my QB2. I know he's not on your list because he's not one of your top 3 quarterbacks. But Klubnik is a guy for me that is, has great arm talent, can put it all over the field, good accuracy, runs the offense well, has solid mobility, can run a little bit. I feel like he has a little higher upside than Allar. I feel like we've kind of seen what Allar has to offer, which is very good, and like that's why he's also in this first round. Klubnik, I feel like, has a little higher ceiling. If he can like refine the deep ball a little bit, get a little stronger with the deep ball, I'd feel comfortable even moving him up a little bit. So I see a lot with Klubnik. I think he'll also be in that Heisman race. He'll also be in that like top 5 pick race when the NFL draft comes around. So we'll see, how it shakes out and how everything goes down the road. But I feel pretty good about Klubnik, and so that's why he ends up here at 10. Previously, I had Max Clare here, and he got subbed out for Klubnik. Claire, I don't know if he's on your list, but he was, kind of an iffy prospect for both of us if you go back to tight ends. And so I felt more comfortable about Klubnik here being a startable fantasy asset than I did about him. So I slotted him out.
Yeah, I mean, for Klubnik, I think if you go back to our quarterbacks episode, you get a little bit more of a insight into what my thoughts are versus what your thoughts are. But kind of the gist of it is, I don't know that he has the big arm that the other guys that I have ahead of him do. But that doesn't mean I don't think he's a good quarterback. He was my number 6 heading into the season. But I think today, right now, product on the field, I think he's one of the best quarterbacks in this class. And I think that's why he's going to get the Heisman conversations very early. And I think Clemson is going to have a really good season, in part because of their awesome defense, but also because of Klubnik leading the charge with, another player we're probably going to talk about in a little bit, and company as well. So I do like Klubnik a lot. I think he's kind of one of your early, I would say he's one of your guys.
Sure.
Does that feel right?
Yeah,
I feel like you're,
I can plant the flag a little bit for Klubnik.
hell yeah. All right. Well, I could kind of plant the flag for this guy too, and I think you will as well, because he's an easy guy to root for. But number 10 for me is Eli Stowers.
I have him higher.
A lot higher.
Yeah.
We can wait.
Okay.
You have the stones that I that I was not ready to have yet.
I just we talked about these guys over the rankings episodes, and you can go back and like listen to our conversation about Stowers. You can kind of see how we both feel about him, and I just am kind of going out on a limb a little bit with some of these guys, maybe, but I feel pretty good about it. So we'll just go. You wanted to go to your 9 then?
Sure. So number 9 then for me is Elijah Sarratt.
Okay, I don't have him in here.
Okay. So Sarratt is wide receiver from Indiana. He's one of the few guys that we've talked about through the summer that has legitimate size at 6'2", 209, plays outside like 90% of the time for Indiana. We talked about the fact that could see him moving into more of a big slot role in the NFL. Like I don't think that would be a bad option for him, but I do think he can live on the outside even at the NFL. level. I mean, he's not a high-end athlete by any means. That's probably going to be his big knock through this process. You're going to hear conversations about ceiling and all of that with him, I think. But big, physical, good route runner, has strong ability at the catch point. He's just kind of a baller, and he's made a career now out of proving people wrong, going from a 0-star recruit through that magical James Madison team, following Kurt Signetti to Indiana, being their leading receiver last season, and now getting to play with a legitimate NFL, potential first round sort of talent at a quarterback, with Fernando Mendoza transferring to Indiana. So I think this could be a huge season for Sarratt. I like him a lot. And I think he's one of the kind of the guys in this wide receiver group that has a lot of question marks. He's one of the guys that I don't have a ton of question marks about. I just don't know what his ceiling looks like.
Yeah, that's my only like big flag with him, and it's not necessarily even a red flag because I think he's a solid player. He just missed for me, and so I'm like, how like dynamic is this player? Like, how explosive is he? Blah blah blah. But I really like him as a player, like as a consistency guy, as get open, I can trust you, that kind of player. So I definitely have no qualms about you putting him at 9. Like I feel pretty good about that, and he'll probably end up being in this top 12 by end of season for me.
So you're number 9
Did I
then.
say my number 11? I don't think I did.
Who is it?
It's Deontae Lawson.
No, no, you did not.
Okay. I was like, I feel like we haven't talked about him. I don't know if I'm like have memory loss or not, but because you had Stowers and then I didn't respond at the anyway. So Deontae Lawson, I'll go into it for number 11.
Yeah.
Linebacker out of Alabama is my number 2 defensive player, and my number 1 linebacker. And I just felt pretty, again, like I felt safe and comfortable with this guy, of getting him in the first round and getting him, like, this is kind of that range you were talking about with TJ Parker, that you kind of see at the end of the first round those high level IDP players go. In this case, the number 2 IDP guy goes in the spot that the number 1 normally goes, mostly because the number 1 is just like, I think, really good comparative to the class. And so the number 1 kind of slots up, and then the number 2 slots in where the number 1 would go. So I have Lawson at 11, who I'm assuming, now that we're at 9, that he's not going to end up making your list.
Yeah, TJ Parker is the only IDP that I had in my top 12. But I would say that the rest of the class, some of the guys that we talked about, meaning Lawson and Anthony Hill Jr., and maybe even a couple of the other edge rushers as well, would be guys that I'm looking at in that second round range as it sits today, because of the nature of how badly this skill group falls off. I would say, like,
Yeah.
running, I have a few running backs and a few wide receivers that, like, we kind of talked about on a rankings episode, that did not make my 12. After that, it just really falls off a cliff. And I think the IDP class, if it's as good as it seems like it could be today, will take up a lot of real estate in the second round this year. So that also means that players like Lawson and Hill at linebacker could certainly rise into this back end of the first round range, because for the last 3 years, we've been talking a lot about tier 1 edge guys, and those have been the players that fit into that like 10, 11, 12 area of the first round. We have not had a linebacker that did that, but that does not mean that that can't happen. We just haven't had that level of a prospect. So I think with those 2 guys specifically, with Lawson and Hill, I think those are the 2 guys we'll be watching the closest this season, and the ones that'll have the best chance to end up here.
Yep. All right. So now that we backtracked a little bit, now do you
Yep.
want to go to your 8?
And we know you're 9.
We know. Oh, no. Okay. So we'll go to my 9. There we go.
There it is.
Carnell Tate.
Okay.
So this is my Elijah Sarratt
Yep.
kind of flip flop. So Carnell Tate, Ohio State. He's been always the bridesmaid kind of wide receiver with this team. Last year was their wide receiver 3 effectively behind Egbuka and Jeremiah Smith. This year slotting in next to Jeremiah Smith, one would imagine. I think just has really good movement skills. Just a very like fluid, athletic player that can make some really nice catches along the sideline. Really impressive body control. Going low, going outside of his frame, kind of staying upright while making really tough catches, and then like continuing with the run after catch process. Really natural catcher of the ball. So I just really like his movement skills, his fluidity, his catch radius, all the things that he can do, before and after the catch is, I feel pretty comfortable about. So I'd say when we talk about, receivers, he's in like my Elijah Sarratt spot that you have.
Yep. And that's exactly how it was on wide receivers. And I think we're probably in the exact same boat where I don't know if Sarratt's your first man out or if he's one of them, but
Yeah.
Tate is my first guy out.
Yeah, I
Uh,
have Sarratt at 13.
yeah, I have Tate at 13. So we're just, we're flip flopping those guys right now. But the thing with Tate is he wasn't in my top 5 receivers, but he is my next guy knocking on the doorstep here for the top 12. That's in part due to the strength of the running back class overall, but also I think Tate is a player that has, a very good chance to be one of these guys that we're talking about kind of in a different light by the middle of this season. I think you're some of the projection is already baked in for you.
Yeah.
I'm kind of
It's
holding.
probably smarter to do it your way, but
Well, you're gonna look really good when he's having a hell of a season, and you're like, yeah, he was like my number 9 player coming into the year. So, but yeah, no, I think with that new number 2 role for him in this offense across from Jeremiah Smith, I think with the flashes that you saw from last season, even as the number 3 guy behind, a first round NFL receiver this year and a first round
first
top 5,
overall pick.
yeah, so for next year, seeing what you saw from him last year was still impressive. Like you said, I'm totally with you on the movement skills. 6'3", 191, and he moves very smooth. Has the catch point flashes as well against the sideline and all of those things. Just want to see what this expanded role looks like. Want to see a little bit more consistency out of the routes. Show a little bit more possibly after the catch to go with that athleticism that he's showing you within his routes. And also, I just want to point this out. I did do like a news check on all these guys to see if there's anything timely. In most cases, there's not. But for Tate, yesterday, July 15th, Carnell Tate was named a Big Ten Distinguished Scholar Athlete.
Ooh, you like to see that.
So
He's
great head on his shoulders.
putting a lot of energy points into the study category on Road to Glory.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so that is your number 9, which means we are on to my number 8.
Yes.
Player that you will not have in your top 12. It's Eric Singleton Jr.
Correct.
This is where I do the projection baking to try to make myself seem smart.
Hell yeah.
Singleton
Hey, you don't have to make yourself seem smart. Come on.
Well, you mean that?
Yeah.
Well, Singleton, I'm hoping he makes me look a little bit smarter, because when you look at him at Georgia Tech, I can understand how you landed where you landed, which was that he was kind of meh. 5'11", 190. Georgia Tech's not telling him to run a ton of routes. You're not getting a lot of that. Like, ooh, wow, he can do that. It's mostly the fact that when they tell him to go on a go route or a deep post, he is doing that at an extremely high level consistently over and over and over. And Haynes King is finding him consistently over and over and over. And even when the throws are kind of meh, he is going up over the top of, players that are in some cases taller than he is and coming down with the ball. So I think he is an awesome deep threat today. And I think there's a little bit more to his game that we might get to see at Auburn this season. He is transferring to Auburn. I don't know. He was the number 1 wide receiver in the portal. I don't know that he's going to be the number one wide receiver on this team because Cam Coleman, who is part of this 27 wide receiver freshman renaissance thing that happened last year, might just be their number one guy anyway. But if that's the case, Singleton's going to be a hell of a number two, a hell of a, Z receiver that can take the top off consistently, get into space, and they can use him in creative ways, just like Georgia Tech was as well. So this one is definitely a little bit of hoping that we get to see a little bit of an expanded role at Auburn this year than what he was doing at Georgia Tech the last couple of years.
Yeah, I used up my ticket on Carnell Tate, so I couldn't do another one. They wouldn't let me put it in, but I think that he's an exciting player, and I'm really like anticipating seeing what he's going to do at Auburn. Hopefully with an expanded role, like you said. Hopefully, a little more refined skill set and all that. So I am looking forward to seeing what he can put together, and then make my changes as we go. So hopefully he's one of those guys that kind of shoots up the board a little bit and instills confidence in one or the both of us.
So your number 7.
My number 8 is Arch Manning.
Or number 8 is Arch Manning.
Yes, it is.
He's higher for me.
All right, a lot higher.
We can talk about him. He is number 5.
Okay. So the big question, obviously, and we'll continue to talk about it till the day he decides, is will Arch Manning be in this class? And that's like, outside of our like what we can control and like what we can do. So we're going to talk about him because he's eligible at the end of this season to be in the NFL draft until he goes into the NFL draft. Now, my feelings on that is we need to see him have a great, if not like incredible season in order for him to go to the NFL, or a historically great franchise needs to hold the number 1 overall pick. I think that those two situations are the only situations where he'll get the advice, the thumbs up from the Manning family to go into the NFL. And that situation is like maybe, the Steelers have a disastrous year and end up being at number 1. And you go into a system with like pretty solid infrastructure and a good coach. And like then they're like, all right, I guess like go ahead. But if the Saints are the number 1 pick, or like the Panthers again end up down there, or one of these, franchises that just does not have their stuff together ends up being number 1, and Arch Manning has like, 3,500 yards, 30 something touchdowns, 15, 18 picks. It's just going to be come back, keep raking in NIL money, and then try again next year when you've had another year to develop. Because the big question and the big like red flag is that he just hasn't thrown a lot of passes in college. And that's totally fair. And from what I've seen, he's awesome when he does, but there's definitely a lot of questions up in the air. Why do you have him higher?
Yeah, I mean, like everything you said, I totally agree with. I think like maybe even a Heisman season is
Right.
what it would take for him to just like, if he proves that he's already the best quarterback in the sport, then they can't really hold him hostage for another season. And that's a long way to go from where we are today because he threw 90 passes last year. So there's a lot about Arch Manning that we don't know, but the parts that we do know, the few games that we got to see him last year already made it pretty clear to both of us that he has the talent and the tools and the flashes already on film to suggest that he can be the number 1 overall pick in the 2026 draft. And that's why he was our number 1 quarterback. And for me, I'm putting him here at number 5 because I mentioned having a 4-player tier. After that, I'm just going to go with the quarterback that I think is potentially going to be number 1 overall in the class that I have a very high preliminary grade on, and one that is going to be a potential dual threat quarterback. That's the other thing. We talk about, quarterback talent versus the, benefits of having a running aspect for fantasy. Luckily, a lot of the guys in this class have both, and that includes the one that's named Manning, which is not something we're used to. But all you have to do is turn on his very first game, UTSA. I get it. Quality opponent, not really, but he had a massive 70-yard rushing touchdown in that game. And that's real wheels, and that shows up. So I hope we get to see a little bit more of that this year as well, to really kind of solidify that he is a dual threat player. But I think, yeah, he needs to have that big season, and I think he can do it.
I also think he can do it. I wouldn't I'm probably not putting money on Heisman, but
Yeah.
there's an outside chance at it.
Yeah. Show me the odds, and then I'll think about it maybe. If you can get Arch at I wonder what it is actually.
I got it. I'll pull it up while you're.
I was gonna say if I could get
7.
Arch at plus 2,000, but I'm would they even set it that high?
Plus 700.
Yeah.
So
I might sprinkle.
According to the latest Heisman odds, yeah, it's plus 700.
Okay.
I was worried that Google AI was.
Yeah. If it was over plus
Kings.
1,000, that's intriguing.
I don't know.
No, I'm
not a gambling man.
Yeah.
So.
Where are we?
We're at your number 7.
I'm my number 7. So this is now Antonio Williams, which is a flip-flop for me. I have moved Singleton down 1 peg, and I've moved Williams up 1 peg.
He's my number 6.
And he's number 6 for you. So I mentioned on wide receivers, I had kind of 3 guys, very similar size, very similar profiles, kind of all in one collective bucket. And the more I thought about it, the more I was thinking, you just see a little bit more from Williams today. There's definitely kinks with his game, and I think that's kind of where I was thinking, Singleton, what can you be, man? I'm loving what I see. Meanwhile, Williams is already putting it all on film. And so the parts that I had some questions with, like his ability against more physical defenders, his size is showing up in those more physical situations during his route. The hands are pretty suspect, though he does kind of flash a nice ability at the contested situation. So that's kind of an interesting dynamic there. I also thought his route to route consistency was a little bit lacking. I thought some of his routes looked a little bit lazy. That being said, Clemson's asking him to do all of the things. I mean, he's running almost all of the routes at Clemson. So to me, I think you're starting a few spaces ahead with Williams. And that's not to say that he also can't continue to advance his game this season as well. He will be a senior, but I think there's definitely some, we're not quite at the skill caps yet to keep bringing the college football analogies, the 26 analogies in. But so I have Williams here now as my wide receiver 3 in the class.
Yeah, Antonio Williams is my wide receiver 2 in the class. I just think that he's a really nice player, and we didn't end up very far away from each other when we come down to ranking them as a class. So I feel like we're gonna get another good season out of him. And what you said is we bake in projections for a lot of these guys, but it seems like some of them that are already good, we kind of stop baking in those projections and the improvements. And that's fair in some cases. A lot of guys kind of hit that skill cap like you're talking about and stop, refining all of those skills. But I think it would be, kind of a disservice to say Antonio Williams is who he is. And that's about it. And so I think, see some improvement with the down to down hands and the effort down to down and the routes here and there. And I think you'll see, a player that's pretty well rounded, and you can feel good about just getting him get the ball in his hands and see what he can do with it.
You are up at number 7.
My number 7 was TJ Parker.
TJ Parker, that's right. So,
and then my 6 is Antonio Williams. So your 6.
So my 6 then is QB2, LaNorris Sellers.
Okay, beautiful.
You don't have Sellers. Sellers was a little
he was my 4. My QB4.
That's right. Okay. So Sellers, I have Manning and Sellers together. right now. I have almost identical grades on both of them. I think with Arch, it's just like the bits and pieces that you see are very, very high end, and he can be that guy. I think Sellers put it all on film last year. He has a full season under his belt. I think, yes, there is certainly room to grow as a passer. I think the decision making is obviously something that needs to be cleaned up with him. Puts the ball in harm's way too often, too many interceptions, too many turnover worthy plays for him last season. But I think the foundational elements that you saw with his ability as a passer in terms of touch passing, in terms of passing down the field, passing in big moments on big downs, combined with his absolutely elite rushing ceiling, makes him a very appealing player, especially in a class like this one. And when you talk about super flex, I wouldn't even be like, you could have Sellers number one right now, and I wouldn't even be, I wouldn't argue with you, because I get it. I think Manning is just, you're hoping to see what you saw in 3 games for a whole season, and that's going to be good enough. With Sellers, it's like, man, you clean up a little bit here and there, and you keep doing what you're doing, you know, getting out of sticky situations like Lamar Jackson esque, like escapes that he's pulling off there. Yeah, he is a fantasy superstar in the making if he continues to develop and grow.
Yeah, I could absolutely see a world where Sellers ends up being the consensus number one fantasy quarterback, and I don't think it like takes a huge logical leap to get there. It's like if Manning isn't as good as we want him to be, and he goes back to school, boom, there's LaNorris Sellers, consensus number one, because he is like so far and above the like athletic ceiling of any other quarterback in the class. Like he's just such a better mover, he's such a better runner, and he's a great passer too. So like I can see a path where like I'm going to have him be my QB2, and like I think it'll take me like 2 games to justify it. Like I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, I kind of want to see more. I want to see like what, he's about, and see him clean up a few things, and like I see 2 games where he's done that, and I think he's just gonna like fly up my board. So that's all it really takes. I want to be skeptical, and I want to be like, I don't know, I don't know how I feel about Sellers, but the only thing I really feel is like I want to see him work on deep ball accuracy a little bit, and I want to see him kind of not be so fleet of foot and like not rely on getting out of there and like making the extended play. Like just make the play on time a little more often, and I'll feel pretty good, because you're not going to be able to bail yourself out of every situation with your athleticism. See Anthony Richardson. So,
Amen to that. All right. So your number
my
five?
number 5 is Makhi Hughes,
Okay.
running back out of Tulane.
So I was wondering if we were on a similar trajectory with the running backs, but we are not,
Okay.
because I don't have Hughes in my 12.
Okay. That's okay. So we'll go into Hughes here. I think you can probably figure out my top 4 from there then.
Yeah.
But Hughes is a fun runner out of Tulane, a strong runner, a compact player. And he ends up at 5 because of positional scarcity, I think, where we have, our number 1 and 2 guys are the same. And then coming in, it's like, what other running backs have made my top 12? And there aren't any other running backs in the top 12. So this is a little bit of projection saying we just like kind of need to get a guy in here. And whether that's, Hughes or not, we'll see as the season goes on. But right now I feel the best about Hughes. And Hughes is, like I said, he's a strong player. He's got some burst. He's got some good short area quickness. He finds a hole decisively and hits it hard, and he is just really hard to take down with one player. So I got him at 5. I understand why you would leave him out, and it's not like I want to plant my flag on Mike Hughes Island. It's just like I don't see a world in Dynasty where only 2 running backs are going in the first round.
Yeah, and I mean that's fair, and it certainly crossed my mind. But at the same time, I think we did just see a weak running back class a couple of years ago with Benson and Brooks being the top two guys, and it was like you kept wanting to find ways where you're like they're not gonna, they have to go higher than this. Like,
Right.
there has to be more guys, but it's like I'm gonna make this running back class come to me. Like I'm not comfortable with most of these running backs right now. And I think Hughes is my number 3 running back. So he is, I only have 2 of them here. And I think with Hughes, it's going to be about what does he look like at Oregon this year? Because I talked about on running backs, like I'm all for, watch the film. It doesn't really matter who he's playing against. We're just trying to figure out if he's a good player. He's dominating against these weaker teams. That's obviously a good sign. However, I see a lot of plays where I'm like, man, like in the Big Ten, is that going
Yeah.
to look the same? And it's not genty. It's not like these guys can't bring him down. It's just like there's just like certain moments with his athleticism or some reads that he's making where I'm like, man, I think a Big Ten linebacker is not going to let that happen.
Sure.
So I'm just gonna put the chip on Makai's shoulders and all the running backs that come after him to be like, you guys, this year it's got to be a big year, and we got to see improvement out of these players for them to earn first round spots in our upcoming draft.
That's fair. And it very well, like, you slot this around, you take Hughes out, you put in Sarratt, and like I feel good about that top 12 too. So like all of this very fluid.
Yeah, yeah, no, I think everything after five on is just like
Yeah.
cluster. Like
They're
whatever,
all
man.
very close.
Yeah. All right. So number 5 for me was
Yep.
Arch. So then number 4 for me is Makai Lemon,
Okay.
who you do not have.
Correct.
So Lemon was my wide receiver 2 heading into this season. And he is going to be one of the guys. I mentioned this tier of players with Lemon, Williams, and Singleton. All of them are 5'11, all of them are 190, all of them are playing in the slot. I kind of just have a my guy tax with Lemon right now because I love the toughness element of his game. I think there's still reps where guys are, kind of pushing him around a little bit because of his size, but he is responding to that and he is kind of giving it back to them. And that's something that I love to see. I mentioned the name Jalen Knoll when talking about Lemon on wide receivers. I see a very similar demeanor on the field, and I see a very similar skill set in terms of having this explosive acceleration and deep speed to consistently take the top off of the defense. Excellent hands, runs a decent variety of routes at USC right now. I think there is a world where he could play the Z and he's not limited to the slot. But we'll see how they use him this year and we'll see if that seems realistic for him. But I just really like Lemon a lot, and he's kind of one of my guys, I think, heading into the year. So I have him here at 4.
Yeah, I love Lemon as like a deep threat, and I like him, as an upside play. I just don't have him here quite yet, and like I think that that's totally fair and fine. Like you might look at it and be like, how do you have him at 4, and how does the other guy not have him in his first round? And that's kind of what we're getting at with this class is like there's I don't think like a ton of blue chip guys. What's below a blue chip? Like a green chip?
Yeah.
I don't even know if there's a lot of green chip guys. Like I feel like we're sitting here and like I think GMs you'll see maybe some 26 first getting dealt in like trades in the NFL this year, which is kind of rare. You don't really see that in season. But I feel like we're just looking at, you know, this class as a whole and being a little sussed out. But Lemon, not a bad player by any means, not a guy that I have off my board. He has a little bit more of an incomplete grade than like, uh, I have him ranked 15th, and I feel strongly about that. I just feel like I need to, eat more lemons. I need to watch. I need to
Life
watch a
gives
little
you
more.
lemon.
Yes,
You make lemonade.
you rank him 4th.
Yeah. For context, just to kind of color that in a little bit too, like what this guy's for, like what the hell. He is wide receiver 8 for me in 2025. Like, obviously, this is not his final grade, but the grade that I have on him right now, looking at last year's class, he is wide receiver 8, and he's going in the middle of the second round. And he is the number 4 player for me in this class. So that is very drastic in terms of a shift from year to year.
All right, so my number 4, the moment we've all been waiting for, Eli Stowers.
There it is.
So we talk about tiers, and I also have a top 4 tier. And it's basically like my number 1 at each position and then another guy. And so my number 1 tight end is here. And Stowers, we talked about, we got filled in that he is going to be playing at 240 coming up this season, and he's about 235. And so feel pretty good about that because, we talked a little bit about on tight ends that like ESPN has him listed at 225, and that was a little sketchy, but apparently his playing weight last year was 235, and that feels more apparent because he doesn't look like a 225-pound player. He doesn't look like Jaden Higgins out there. He looks a little bigger than that, and he plays a little bigger than that, but he still maintains the like smoothness and the agility and the speed of a smaller player. And so I am, and he's like converted to tight end as well, and he looks quite good at it. And there's still obviously some sort of adjustment period that needs to happen. And if he's this good already, I'm excited to see how good he looks in the future. Now, this like top 4 tight end spot is usually reserved for like the elite of the elite. And we talk about Bowers, we talk about Pitts, we talk about those kind of players that end up, being talked about just as like, oh yeah, and he's top 5. And though I don't know if Stowers is at like that Brock Bowers level of tight end yet, I have way more confidence in him than like any of the guys below him in this list to end up there. So that's why he ends up at number 4 for me in this class. But also like I get it where you have him. So
yeah, I mean that's really it. Like there are guys ahead of him on my rankings that I am less confident will still be in my top 12 by the end of this year. Like I can almost guarantee that Stowers will be a top 12 player for me in this class all the way until next April. Like I don't have any reservations about that. I think right now it's kind of a little bit of what you said, which is top 5 for a tight end feels like holy ground, and only 2 in the last decade have lived there. Beyond that, actually, for me, with Pitts and Bowers. So last year we had an awesome duo. I think they were 7 and 8 for me in my final ranking, so they were kind of right on the doorstep. I think Stowers can get there. I just have a lower grade on Stowers than I did on players like Loveland and Warren as it sits today. And part of that is just because he is a raw tight end by nature of the fact that he's only been playing the position full time for 1 full season. And somehow he's already this good enough to be the number 1 tight end in this class and good enough to be a top 4 player for you in this class, which I totally understand because I think pure talent today, pure tape from 2024, it makes a lot of sense that Stowers would be a player in that tier of this class.
Yep. Number 3.
So number 3, I think this is where we take it home.
Sync up a little bit, yeah.
Take it home, perhaps. I have Jonah Coleman at number 3.
As do I.
So Coleman is my number 2 running back, your number 2 running back. I think this class today, it is 2 running backs in my opinion, but it's different than the Benson Brooks year because these guys are legit. And one of them for sure is incredible, amazing talent. We'll talk about him. Coleman, I think, is the guy where when we talked about him on running backs, it was like a little bit like, oh man, we did it. We both like you got Coleman at number 2 as well. I'm kind of feeling the same about having him at number 3 in the overall rankings.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't feel like he is a number 3 overall caliber player, but he's awesome.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know that I'm like,
is this a vibes pick? Is that really where we ended up?
I think it is. And it's like, it's kind of like, if I have the number 3 pick, am I ecstatic to take Jonah Coleman? No. Like, I feel like that's not great pick value in a vacuum. However, I'm going to be happy to have him on my team.
Right. Yeah. That's kind of, Coleman's just really fun to watch. And, you can go back to running backs if you want to like hear a full discussion on how we actually feel about them. But in summary, it's like, this is a sick watch. Like we turn them on and it's like, you go through this like list of 15 running backs that you're watching the tape on all of them, watching all 22s, watching full game. Then you get to Coleman and it's like, oh God, this is fun. Like this is not just like, copy and paste running back that, follows his blocks and hits the holes and goes down on first contact. It's a guy that's like looking to bury people. And it's just like a nice breath of fresh air, a change of pace. And so outside of that, like also a really good running back. Like it's not like a charity pick to have him here. He's still quite good and in a class where there's not a ton of really good running backs. You kind of got to lean on guys like this and like hope that he becomes, what you kind of picture in your mind when you picture him. So that's why he ends up at 3 for me.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things here. Number one, I really hope they get him a little more involved in the pass game this year, because you saw a little bit more of that at his final season at Arizona in 2023. Wasn't a ton, but he had 31 targets, 26 catches for 278 yards. I think he looks like a pretty natural pass catcher. So I think if they kind of put that back on display a little bit this year and show that he is a like 3 down potential sort of a running back, because he's also a great pass blocker. So you get a little bit of the sense that he can play receiver out of the backfield. We know he can pass block. We know he's a awesome runner. If he's offering that sort of a skill set and specifically for fantasy, then it starts to become a lot easier to be like, yeah, all right, this guy's going to be a lot of fun. Like if we're thinking he can have like 50 catches to go with a 1,200 yard rushing season in the NFL, then yeah, like he's worth the 3rd overall pick for sure. 100%. So I hope we get to see that this year.
Yep. I want it.
Yeah.
I'll be tuning in.
Also the body transformation.
Yeah.
We get ripped Jonah Coleman this year.
Best shape of his life.
He's got washboard abs now. He went from bowling ball to just shredded.
Right. What's a shredded version of a bowling ball?
That's like a high question.
Yeah, you're right. You gotta maybe we can talk about it later.
Yeah. All right. Number 2. I'll let you take this one.
Jordyn Tyson, wide receiver. Yep. This is our collective number 1 wide receiver. Another player that we were pleasantly surprised by, I'd say, because we were watching a lot of these receivers and ended up feeling less than energized by the wide receiver class. And then you turn on Jordyn Tyson and it's like, holy moly, this guy can like dominate a game. Feels like the only wide receiver in this class that can truly dominate, that can be a number 1A player. Can play outside, can play inside. Good route runner, really good physical threat while the ball's in the air, and then after the catch as well. Now, could use like a little more on the rack side of things, I think, but altogether like feels like the one wide receiver that I would bet on to take over a game out of any of these guys in this class. And so ends up, being far and away the number one wide receiver and far and away, the number two player in this class.
Yeah, it was alluded to when we did our positional rankings about the divide that was happening at the top of these rankings with running back and wide receiver. When you stack the board, it really becomes apparent about how these top two players like really earn this spot. And they really earn it even more because of the fall off, at least
Right.
right now
Yeah.
today, to number 3. Because these are guys like easy first round NFL grades. Like you said, Tyson, the only wide receiver in this class as it sits right now that I feel and you feel can really take over a game, that can be the number one guy because he was doing it at Arizona State. I mean, that offense, it was the 3-prong attack, and all of these guys were pulling their weight, and all of them were responsible for the amazing season that Arizona State had. And the 3 guys, of course, I'm talking about are Sam Levitt, Jordyn Tyson, and then Cam Scatterbo, who was, obviously one of our favorite running backs from in last year's draft class. But the
Our
Levitt Tyson show, what?
our favorite running backs.
Oh, well, I forgot you weren't a
You and the Scatted
Scatterbro.
Bros. Is that who our
Yeah,
is? I was gonna say
yeah.
don't lump me in with them.
Come on. I thought I converted you by the end of the year.
No.
All right. Well, aside from Collin, everybody loves the Scatterbro, and this year, Levitt and Tyson hopefully going to make even more fans with this Sun Devils team, and I think they will because I think Tyson is in for a massive season as long as he can stay healthy. That's one of the things we flagged with him. There's a bit of an injury history here with him. Want to see a fully healthy season, and then I'm with you. The run after the catch, yards after the catch kind of stuff that can improve. But across the board, the route running, the physicality, the catch point, like all of that is totally signed, sealed. This is, easily the first wide receiver in this group and easily one of the top 2 players overall in this class.
Amen. Let's how about you want to take number 1 away since I got to take number 2?
Sure.
Okay.
I'll do the honors. Jeremiyah Love is with everything that we've talked about. Go back to the very beginning of the episode where we spent 5 minutes talking about how bad the class is. Throw that all out the window if you have 101. Like don't even worry about what the chaos that's going to ensue behind you. Just sit there and enjoy the fact that in a seemingly bad class, you ended up with a player that is far from a consolation like participation trophy first overall pick, because he's not. He would be the first overall pick in a lot of dynasty rookie drafts. He is a complete running back. I think one of the biggest shocks with Love's film was the physicality and the strength, because everybody knows about the explosiveness. Everybody knows about the athleticism. If you watched him at all, if you watch Notre Dame in the playoff, if you have any exposure to Jeremiyah Love at all, you know that he is a big play running back. You know that he has, unbelievable speed, acceleration, the hurdles, show off, just, all around an athlete playing this position. But when guys are coming down on him and he has to put his shoulder into them, that is a favorable situation for him more than it's not. And that is the part when I was like, oh yeah, we're dealing with a rare talent at running back. The only question, Colin, will be the workload, because last season 16 carries was his max throughout the season, and he still had some injuries that he was dealing with at the end of the season. So can he handle a full workload this year? What does that look like? Does he get even better?
Yeah, that's something that I'm concerned about, mostly because of like the impact that he plays with, like the stress that he's putting on his lower body, play in and play out. And it's like, yeah, I want to believe that if he gets 20 carries a game, 25 carries a game, or 25 touches a game, that he would be, one of the guys that joins the rarefied air. But it also is like kind of scary. Kind of feels like Saquon-esque, where you're seeing him do things that are like, other normal human bodies can't do. And like shifting from, and I'm not saying that Jeremiyah Love is Saquon, because Saquon's like one of
I
one.
think that's what you
Yeah,
just
I
said.
just
So.
dang it. But I'm saying that there's a similar amount of stress that the body has to endure when it's like when you're changing direction like this, when you're hurtling as often as he does, and that is a flag of concern. But outside of that, like Jeremiah Love, like you said, would be 101 in a lot of classes. Like last year, I'd probably slot him in 102, like right behind Genty, maybe 103. But like, I feel pretty great about this player and like feel pretty secure as long as the body holds up, because I would imagine that he ends up being a more featured piece of this offense this year just because he's kind of proven it, unless there's some kind of injury concern that Notre Dame knows about that maybe we aren't privy to. So I am, this was the easiest pick of the ranking. Like 1 and 2 were the two easiest to rank out of everybody, and then it's kind of like figure it out after that. Ended up being a top 4 for me. In top 2 were in a tier, the next 2 were in a tier, but outside of that, it's kind of like take your pick. So like you said, you have 102, you have 101, and you watch everybody else kind of scramble behind you. But yeah, 101 especially, you feel great about.
Yeah, he would have been my third player as it sits right now today, based on my summer grade, and that's only because Travis Hunter plays 2 positions.
Yeah.
So he would have been number 2 otherwise if Hunter was just a wide receiver. So that's saying something when we talk about this last year's class being historic and amazing, and the top like 5, the top 8 really was like, wow, like these guys are all insane. To say that a player like Love is already kind of putting himself in that conversation to be a top 2 pick in that class at, after one season, and he's a 20-year-old player right now. So um actually, he just turned 20 in
Yeah.
May. So
Yep.
he was doing it at 19 last year. So
Can't even get a beer.
no, still can't.
Yep.
Won't even be able to drink on draft night.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's gonna
Yeah, he'll
happen.
follow those rules.
But there it is.
There it is.
That's 12 players, and that's a little bit more than 12 because we got a lot of chaos that's happening after like 2 or 3 in this class. I mean, it's going to make for a fun year. If nothing else, it's going to make for some great content as we follow college football this fall and see how these guys are potentially improving, or who is taking their spots and putting their name into this class. So I think the chaos can be a good thing for us.
Yeah, I think that it'll definitely, like, we'll probably have the biggest difference between our summer rankings and our mid-season rankings than we ever have, just because of the volatility of all of these players. And like, some of these guys might pop and become incredible, some of them might fall off the face of the planet. We never talk about them outside of this, and like, that's okay. We're here to just break down what we've seen from their first 1, 2, 3 years of college and try to project that into the 2025-2026 season and the 2026 draft and beyond. Do you want to go through your rankings? Because I know this has been kind of patchwork, kind of roundabout. So, like, you want to quick go through your 1 through 12, and then I'll do mine?
Yes, good call. So number 12, I have TJ Parker. Number 11, Drew Allar. Number 10, Eli Stowers. Number 9, Elijah Sarratt. Number 8, Eric Singleton Jr. Number 7, Antonio Williams. Number 6, LaNorris Sellers. Number 5, Arch Manning. Number 4, Makai Lemon. Number 3, Jonah Coleman. Number 2, Jordyn Tyson. And number 1, the Jeremiyah Love.
Yeah, and then my number 1 is Jeremiyah Love. 2 is Jordyn Tyson. 3 is Jordyn Coleman. 4, Eli Stowers. 5, Makhi Hughes. 6, Antonio Williams. 7, TJ Parker. 8, Arch Manning. 9, Carnell Tate. 10, Cade Klubnik. 11, Deontae Lawson. And 12, Drew Allar.
So with our top 12s on the board, officially carved into the wooden signs out front of Camp Dynasty, the campers get to go huddle around and be like, "Oh god
Who
damn
made
it, I missed it.
Yeah.
Fuck, I gotta get better." With all of that behind us, next week we will be diving into a little bit of what's going on in the rest of the world outside of Camp Dynasty, because we are doing a Dynasty rookie mock draft, our way too early version of the Dynasty rookie mock draft for 2026. But because we just did our rankings and we know how we would draft the board as it sits today in a vacuum, we will be putting some landing spots to these players based off of some of the early 2026 NFL mock drafts that have come out. So we will do our best to put landing spots to each of these players if possible, and draft the class. And I think landing spots, even the hypothetical ones, are going to make a pretty big difference in how the class is drafted.
Yeah, especially with some of these like running backs, if they end up going even like second, third round, it changes a whole bunch. And then we'll see how the first round shakes out. I think we kind of have a good idea who would project to be first rounders, but then if you go to a muddy landing spot, can change a lot of things. So that'll be a more nuanced discussion about where guys are and what that means for them. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah. And also we get outside the bubble a little bit, and It's like, wait a minute, Makai Lemon's going in the 4th round. What the hell?
Yeah. Right.
So we cross over it all. We enter the wide world of draft coverage, and now it all starts to fall into place from July to April.
Here we go.
Let's do it. If you enjoyed our first edition of Dynasty Rookie Rankings in their entirety for 2026, be sure to find us on Twitter, camp_dynasty, and TikTok, camp.dynasty. If you are watching on YouTube right now, hello, and make sure that you subscribe and like this video before you leave, because we very much appreciate that. If you are on the pod feed, also like, share, follow, review, rate. Sure. I went way out of my normal order there as I lost it right in the beginning. But anything you can do on your podcast player of choice, we appreciate that as well.
Sorry for all the sniffles. My allergies are killing me.
It's okay. It's we got the pollen count at camp is just out of control right now. So
wearing an N95 just to stay alive.
Thanks for stopping by Camp Dynasty this week, and we'll see you next week.